Good afternoon. So today we are going to be talking about children's media. We're going to be kind of following along the same lines as our lecture slides were, but we're going to focus on four main types of media today, and that's going to be literature, television, internet, and video gaming. And then we're also going to be not only looking at the entertainment aspects of these media forms, but also the educational aspects of it. And we're also going to be looking at some pros and cons to each media form as well. So, first, we'll start off with literature. So, in the 1600s, the first children's book was the Orbis Pictus, and I've included a picture of it up there. As you can see, it's very different from children's books that you see today. They were highly educational and religious, and as we know, not a lot of people could read back then, so the only children that really could read them were the ones that had high status parents as well. And in the 1700s, still no color pictures, but they did include more storytelling and entertainment in them. And they also took into account the line spacing because they realized that it was easier for children to read if they had greater spacing between the lines. 1800s, children's books are becoming increasingly popular. You've got iconic books like The Nutcracker, Little Women, The Jungle Book, and they're also including more illustrations. As you can see, I've included Alice in Wonderland, which is also another iconic children's book. And in the 1900s, children's books are really taking off. You've got The Cat in the Hat. All Dr. Seuss books are really, really popular for children. We've got colored pictures now, and then we're also starting to discuss some hard topics in books like puberty and relationships and feelings, stuff that kids didn't really know how to talk about. So books were now addressing that. And then the 2000s, we've got the largest variety of children's literature today. We've got pop up books, interactive books, comic books. We have different books designed for different really reading levels. So it's really nice. Any children can kind of find any book that they relate to today. All right, and now we're going to talk about television. So, as we learned in class, there are commercial broadcasting and then there's public service broadcasting, as we've learned. So, commercial broadcasting is going to be your, Nickelodeon, Disney, Cartoon Network. We've included the dates of when those started and then also some of the more popular shows that are on those channels. And then we've also got PBS. You've got Mr. Rogers, Sesame Street, Barney, all those iconic shows. In 1990, there was a act passed called the Children's Television Act, and it was enacted by Congress on October 18th, 1990. And the major goal of this act was to increase the quantity of educational and informational broadcast television programming for children. And so this was mostly going to be found on the channel PBS. And commercial broadcasting was mostly entertainment, and public service broadcasting was mostly educational. And not only educational in the sense of, you would learn things like math and science and English, but Sesame Street actually in 2011 included its first character that experiences homelessness. So they're also kind of starting to include hard topics like that, and it reaches a bigger audience of children as well. So with television comes pros and cons. A lot of parents had issues with their children being exposed to a lot of things on television because they could be exposed to violence or adult activities with just kind of the change of a channel. They thought that they would get addicted to it and have, lack of interest in other activities like playing outside. And then also some health risks. I mean, being that young and staring at a TV screen all day, all that blue light that your eyes are taking in could probably be potentially risky to your health. But the benefits, as we've mentioned, it's educational. It's also entertaining as well. It can be a source of creativity and imagination for them. And it also can help improve their vocabulary as well. So lots of pros and cons when it comes to children being exposed to television. And next, this is kind of where children's television and the internet kind of combine. We've got some video streaming apps and websites that are really popular with kids. And as you can tell, they're very, very similar to the TV stations that I was just showing you as well. We've got PBS, Nick Jr., Disney Jr., and Disney Now. So Disney Now it's a streaming app so they can watch any of the Disney shows that they normally do on TV. It's got music, it's got games. Um, all of these websites and apps are designed for kids and they're designed to be maneuverable by kids as well. So kid friendly. Parents shouldn't have to worry too much about them being exposed to anything else when they're on apps or websites like these. And then more with children's internet, looking at more of the educational side. Cool Math Games is a really big website that came out in the late 90s, and it's all educational games, but they feel like they're not educational, so kids have a lot of fun with them, and they're playing these games but also learning at the same time, which is really nice. And same with abcmouse.com, which was invented in 2007. It was a game that used learning for children to earn tickets, and then they used those tickets to like purchase things in the game, and it was a really like revolutionary way for kids to learn and also have fun while doing it. And then lastly, down here, YouTube. YouTube is probably the biggest thing that children use today. They can look at things such as toy testing, educational clips, things from TV shows. It's really endless, the things that YouTube offers. But there were some cons that came to that because it was very easy for children to watch a video of some kid, doing toy testing and then in the corner accidentally click on something that was not appropriate for them. There was a big thing going around called Momo, which was something that was like advertised as a children's video and kids were clicking on it and it was like telling children to kill themselves or cut themselves. And that was a big thing that a lot of parents were outraged by. So, there's pros and cons with YouTube as well. Lastly, we've got video games. So we've included the most popular video games for each console, and we've kind of separated it as entertainment or educational. So blue is entertainment and green is educational. So the first ones in the 70s were arcade games. Those were mostly entertainment games. You've got your Pac-Man and Frogger, Space Invader, those kind of games. And then Nintendo came out in the 80s. Mostly entertainment, but there are some educational games that kids can get for like Nintendo Switch, which is the picture I have right next to the Nintendo. Scribblenauts is a educational game for kids, and then PlayStation and Xbox are very similar with Nintendo, mostly entertainment games, but they have released some educational ones as well. And then we've got the computer. Games such as Oregon Trail, which came out in the 70s, and Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, that was in the 80s, and then Jumpstart games are very educational. And another thing to mention with the computer was schools were now getting computers as well, so teachers now had access to these educational games as well, and so kids could go to school, use the computer, and play games while also learning at the same time. And then the last thing that's in here is the Leapfrog LeapPad, because this was, very revolutionary for the technological world, because it was like its own little tablet that only had, educational and learning things for children, and parents didn't have to worry about them, clicking onto another website because it was only educational things on this pad. So it was very revolutionary for the entertainment world and for this form of media. And that is it. So thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.